Dictionary, the suffix ish. Well, the suffix ish has a very long history in the English language. Actually, it comes from Old English. Since Old English time, this suffix has been here, and but originally it was isk. Okay, of course, Old English is not a concern for us here, guys, because it's not even close to the English we use today. Okay, it's just our concern as long as we are thinking about etymology. Guys, Old English, keep this in mind, Old English is not archaic English, right? Shakespeare wrote in archaic English, which is inside modern English. Old English is a whole other story, right? Old English is more different than modern English, then Portuguese is different from Latin. Okay, so it's easier for a Brazilian to understand a text in Latin than for an American to understand a text in Old English. Well, that's not the point, but the point is, originally, it was used in Old English to transform a noun into an adjective to form nationality. Okay, it's from this period that we have words like Spanish, Swedish, British, Scottish, so on and so forth, right? Well, from that original usage, much later on in the history of the English language, we started using the word to talk about characterized by or tending to be like, and most of the times this second meaning is a little bit derogatory, pejorative. For example, when we talk about slavish, if you are a slavish person, you act slavishly, because remember here we would need the adverb. It means that you act like a slave, and that's not good. You can talk about a girlish, answer, a boyish fight, and a childish text. A childish response, for example, reaction, is like when the person is hysterical and flings themselves to the floor and start crying and rolling on the floor just because they lost their jobs or because people don't want to accept their argument. This is very childish. Okay. Still connected, very closely connected to this second sense of ish, we have ish as tending to, tilting to, and it's from this meaning that we have words like bookish, tending to be connected with books, and of course the word selfish, which is a very common word in English. I confess, when I was starting to learn English, I saw this word fish and it puzzled me, because I would look at the word and say, why fish? So if you worry about yourself, so it's because fish just think about themselves. And then, of course, later on, I discovered that I was doing the division wrong, right? So it's not cell and fish, right? It's selfish is a person who is just concerned about themselves, okay? Well, finally, we get to a very recent development of that suffix, which is, for example, let me put it in a sentence. Let's meet at 7-ish, let's say. So, let's see. 7-ish is not a person that comes from 7, right? 7-ish is not something that is characterized as 7. 7-ish is not something that is tilting or inclined to 7, not in the literal sense at least, right? 7-ish, it means 7 or so, around 7, okay? That's a very recent development of the suffix. Actually, according to some etymology dictionaries, it entered English just in 1916, You know, it's like yesterday, etymologically speaking, right? And still from this seven-ish, we get this idea of kind of around. Okay, so you can say that you bought a book and the cover is greenish, right? If it's greenish, it would mean that it's green, but it's not exactly green. You know, it's brownish coat. You know, it's a round brown. And keep in mind that this last usage sounds more informal in English, okay? But of course, it's used everywhere. You can use it and it sounds very native to do so. Well, it doesn't mean that the words... let me take a step back. Guys, I laid out for you like the evolution of this suffix as somebody walking a path, right? It doesn't mean, guys, that the words we create nowadays will take just this last state of the art, let's say, this last chunk of the path. We can take from the whole thing. But of course, the more recent a meaning is, the more comfortable natives feel in making new words. So for colors and for approximate things, everybody can put for numbers. I think the computer is 2000-ish. Very common. Every day we'll do it. Other time, but remember, people feel more comfortable in this last chunk of the path, but they can get any of the meanings. Think about the word globish, which is a fairly new word in the English language, and the idea of the word globish is, by analogy, well, if we have Spanish, Swedish, Scottish, and we have a global English, so I will just connect those two words and have globish, all right? And of course, in that case, we have this plus that is not only globe with ish, it's like a language of the globe, but it's a language of the globe that is English, right? French, for example, wouldn't fit this pattern, right? Last observation, I know this video is getting too long for a dictionary entry, but then we have a word like perish, which is a verb, extinguish, punish, those guys have nothing to do with the suffixes we've been talking about. They actually come from a completely different area. They come from French, and they got to English like ish because of the sound. Let me give you an example. For example, the word punish in the present participle in French is punissant, punissant. So you have this sang in the end, and then this sang can with time become ish. All right, so verbs are here, and all of the discussion we've had so far are in the relation of making adjectives out of nouns.